The Santa Ana winds, usually a harbinger of dry heat and wildfire warnings, carried something else across Los Angeles this autumn. A cold, unsettling dread. It whispered through the palm trees, rustled the bougainvillea, and settled like a shroud over the vibrant, sun-drenched city. It began subtly, with the disappearance of a young, aspiring actress from her Hollywood apartment. Then, a few weeks later, a vibrant college student vanished from her dorm in Westwood. The pattern, initially dismissed as isolated incidents, began to emerge with terrifying clarity, each new disappearance marked by a chilling, consistent signature. A single, meticulously crafted porcelain doll left at the scene, its serene, painted face a stark contrast to the terror it represented. Detective Sarah Jenkins, a sharp, intuitive investigator known for her meticulous attention to detail, stared at the crime scene photos spread across her desk. The latest victim, a promising young fashion designer named Olivia Vance, had seemingly vanished from her upscale loft apartment in the Arts District. No forced entry, no struggle, just the immaculate loft, and on her pillow, a delicate, antique-looking doll, its eyes wide and unblinking, its lips curved in an unsettlingly placid smile. "He's getting bolder, Sarah," said her partner, Detective Mark Thorne, his voice a low rumble. Mark was a veteran, his face a roadmap of past cases, but even he seemed unnerved by the sheer artistry of this killer. The first few were quieter, more isolated. Now, it's almost like he's taunting us. Sarah picked up one of the crime scene photos, zooming in on the doll. It wasn't just any doll. Each one was unique, handcrafted, and eerily lifelike, almost as if it had been molded in the image of the victim herself. The details were astounding. The delicate lace of a miniature dress, the intricate braids of its hair, the almost translucent quality of its porcelain skin. "It's not just a calling card, Mark," Sarah mused, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's a statement. He's not just taking them, he's transforming them, turning them into something else." The media, initially hesitant to link the cases, now screamed headlines about the doll-face killer, igniting a citywide panic. Young women, particularly those living alone, began to double-check their locks, scrutinize strangers, and avoid solo outings. The LAPD was under immense pressure, and a special task force had been assembled, led by Captain Miller, a man whose patience was as thin as his hairline. Their initial profiling suggested a highly intelligent, meticulous individual, likely with a background in art, sculpting, or perhaps even doll-making. The lack of forensic evidence at each scene was astounding. No fingerprints, no DNA, no fibers. It was as if the killer simply materialized and vanished, leaving only the porcelain sentinel behind. Dr. Eris Vance, a renowned forensic psychologist from the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, had been brought in to assist. Eris was brilliant, almost unsettlingly so, with an uncanny ability to delve into the darkest corners of the human psyche. He had quickly surmised that this wasn't just a serial killer driven by typical motives like sexual gratification or rage. This was something far more complex, more disturbing. "He's not just murdering them, Detective Jenkins," Eris had explained during their first briefing, his voice calm, almost academic. "He's appropriating them. He's creating a new identity for them, an idealized, perfected version. These dolls are not just representations. They are replacements." "Replacements for what?" Mark Thorne had asked, his skepticism evident. "For the messy, unpredictable reality of human interaction," Eris had replied, his gaze distant. "He seeks perfection, control. And in these women, he finds a muse, a canvas upon which to impose his own warped vision of beauty and order." The victims, now numbering 7, shared striking similarities beyond their beauty and independence. They were all active on social media, often sharing details of their lives, their artistic endeavors, their aspirations. They were, in essence, curating their own digital personas, something the killer seemed to exploit with chilling precision. "He's watching them," Sarah deduced. "He's studying their lives, their habits, their deepest desires. He's using their own online presence against them." They began to pore over the victims' digital footprints, searching for a common thread, a hidden pattern. It was a painstaking process, sifting through hundreds of social media posts, online dating profiles, and shared interests. The killer was a ghost in the digital machine, leaving no digital breadcrumbs of his own. One afternoon, a chilling breakthrough emerged. A victim's sister, distraught and desperate, revealed that her sister had been exchanging messages with a mysterious online acquaintance who shared her passion for antique dolls. The messages, recovered from a deleted account, revealed a meticulously crafted persona, a charming, sensitive man who collected vintage dolls and appreciated their intricate artistry. He called himself Silas. Silas. The name sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. It sounded as delicate, as old-fashioned, as the porcelain dolls themselves. The IP addresses used by Silas were carefully masked, routed through multiple proxy servers and VPNs, but the task force's lead tech analyst, a young woman named Chloe, was relentless. After weeks of painstaking work, she traced a pattern of activity back to a secluded, opulent estate nestled in the exclusive hills overlooking Malibu. The estate, a sprawling labyrinth of meticulously manicured gardens and classical architecture, belonged to a reclusive, eccentric art collector named Julian Sterling. Sterling was known for his vast and eclectic collection of art and antiquities, but his true obsession, whispered in hushed tones among the art world elite, was his unparalleled collection of antique dolls. The raid was planned with extreme caution. Julian Sterling was a man of immense wealth and influence, and his property was rumored to be a technological fortress. Sarah insisted on being part of the entry team, her intuition screaming that this was it. This was the lair of the Dollface Killer. As the tactical unit breached the estate's formidable security, a palpable silence hung in the air, broken only by the whispers of the wind. The interior of the mansion was a museum, each room exquisitely decorated, filled with priceless art and ornate furniture. But as they delved deeper, a more disturbing motif began to emerge. In a vast, dimly lit gallery, they found it. Hundreds of dolls, floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with them, each one a masterpiece of craftsmanship, their porcelain faces frozen in serene expressions. And among them, chillingly, were 7 new dolls, still in their pristine boxes, their faces eerily reminiscent of the missing women. Olivia Vance, the aspiring actress, the college student, all there, their beauty captured in delicate porcelain. The realization hit Sarah with the force of a physical blow. He wasn't just leaving dolls at the crime scenes, he was making them. And these were not just representations. They were his trophies, his grotesque replacements for the lives he had extinguished. They found Julian Sterling in a hidden chamber beneath the gallery, a meticulously organized workshop filled with sculpting tools, paints, and raw porcelain. He was elderly, frail-looking, with thin, aristocratic features and eyes that held a chilling, almost otherworldly calm. He was meticulously painting the delicate eyebrows of a half-finished doll, his hands steady, his concentration absolute. He looked up as the tactical unit burst in, not with surprise or fear, but with a faint, almost indulgent smile. "Ah," he said, his voice surprisingly robust. "You found my little sanctuary. I suppose my muses have led you here." "Julian Sterling," Sarah said, her voice tight with disgust. "You're under arrest for the murder of Olivia Vance and 6 other women." Sterling simply chuckled, a dry, papery sound. "Murder, detective? Such a vulgar term. I merely elevated them, transformed them, preserved their beauty in a form that transcends the fleeting imperfections of human flesh." He gestured with a delicate paintbrush towards the unfinished doll on his workbench. "This, you see, is true art, a homage to eternal perfection." Sarah felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just a killer. He was a deluded artist, a twisted connoisseur of human fragility. He saw his victims not as living beings, but as raw materials for his macabre masterpieces. The Santa Ana winds outside seemed to howl in protest, carrying the chilling whispers of the porcelain faces, forever frozen in their serene, unsettling smiles. The Dollface Killer had been unmasked, and the depth of his chilling delusion was only just beginning to unravel. The city of angels, forever marked by his terror, would soon bear witness to the full, horrifying scope of his masquerade. The unmasking of Julian Sterling as the doll-face killer sent shockwaves through Los Angeles and beyond. The image of the sophisticated art collector, a seemingly esteemed member of society, revealed as a meticulous serial killer who transformed his victims into macabre porcelain dolls, captivated and horrified the world. The media, fueled by the gruesome details, plastered his serene, almost elegant face across every news outlet, dubbing him the collector of souls. For Detective Sarah Jenkins, the apprehension of Sterling brought a grim satisfaction, but also a deeper, more unsettling unease. Julian Sterling was not a common criminal driven by passion or profit. He was an enigma, a man whose motives seemed to stem from a place of profound psychological distortion, a warped artistic vision that transcended conventional understanding. Dr. Eris Vance, the FBI forensic psychologist, found himself at the precipice of a psychological goldmine. Sterling was a unique case, a high-functioning individual whose elaborate crimes spoke of a deeply ingrained pathology. Eris relished the challenge, meticulously dissecting Sterling's past, his artistic obsessions, and the chilling philosophy that underpinned his atrocities. "He doesn't perceive them as victims, Detective," Eris explained during a debriefing, his voice calm, almost academic. "He views them as subjects, as muses. He's not killing out of malice. He's killing out of a twisted aesthetic, a desire to achieve an impossible ideal of beauty and permanence." The interrogations with Julian Sterling were unlike anything Sarah had ever witnessed. Sterling was cooperative, articulate, and utterly devoid of remorse. He spoke of his work with a quiet pride, explaining his intricate doll-making process with the same passion a master sculptor would discuss his latest creation. "Humanity, you see, is inherently flawed," Sterling would muse, his voice soft, almost melodic, his gaze distant, as if contemplating a masterpiece. "Ephemeral, imperfect. These women, in their fleeting beauty, were simply destined to decay. I merely accelerated the process, and in doing so, preserved their essence, elevated them to a state of eternal, unchanging perfection." He spoke of his victims as if they were raw materials, clay for his artistic endeavors. He described their features with chilling precision, detailing how he would study their photographs, their mannerisms, even their digital personas, to perfectly capture their likeness in porcelain. The sheer dehumanization was sickening. "The doll is not merely a representation," Sterling explained, a faint smile playing on his lips during one session. "It is the apotheosis, the elevation from the transient to the timeless, a true homage to their beauty, unmarred by the ravages of time or emotion." Eris, through meticulous psychological profiling, began to piece together Sterling's disturbing history. Julian Sterling had been a child prodigy in art, with an almost obsessive fascination with porcelain dolls from a young age. His parents, wealthy but emotionally distant, had indulged his artistic pursuits, fostering a solitary existence dedicated to his craft. He had attended prestigious art schools, but his work often veered into the macabre, focusing on dolls that mimicked death or decay, disturbingly realistic in their portrayal of vulnerability and stillness. He found solace in the immutable nature of dolls, Eris theorized. They were controllable, perfect, unblemished by the chaos of human emotions. He developed an early aversion to the messiness of human relationships, the unpredictability of flesh and blood. The first doll-related disappearance, a cold case from New York decades ago, now linked to Sterling, was revealed to be his initial foray. A young ballerina, whose beauty had captivated him, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a crudely made, yet chillingly familiar, porcelain doll. He had been perfecting his craft for decades, evolving his techniques, refining his philosophy, becoming a master of his perverse art. The trial of Julian Sterling was a spectacle. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. The dolls, forensic analysis confirming human DNA within their intricate structures, Sterling's own chilling admissions, and the meticulous digital footprint he had left in his pursuit of victims. The victims' families watched in horror as Sterling, sitting calmly in the courtroom, spoke of his art with a detached eloquence that defied comprehension. Dr. Vance's testimony was pivotal. She explained Julian Sterling's deep-seated narcissistic personality disorder, his profound lack of empathy, and his grand delusion that he was an artistic genius operating on a higher plane of existence. She argued that his crimes were not merely homicides, but a systematic, ritualistic transformation of human beings into inanimate objects, a perverse attempt to immortalize beauty through an act of ultimate desecration. He sees himself as a god, Dr. Vance stated on the stand, her voice resonant, a creator imposing his own order on the chaotic canvas of human life. His victims are not individuals with lives and dreams. They are raw materials for his ultimate masterpiece. The jury, despite the unsettling nature of Sterling's intellectual arguments, saw through the veneer of artistry to the undeniable horror beneath. Julian Sterling was found guilty on all counts, sentenced to life without parole. The collector of souls was finally caged. But even within the confines of the maximum security prison, Julian Sterling continued his work. He was granted access to materials for art therapy, and his cell became a meticulously organized studio. He sculpted miniature figures from clay, carved intricate patterns into wood, always focusing on the human form, always striving for an unattainable perfection. Sarah, trying to reclaim a normal life, found herself haunted by the memory of Sterling's serene smile, his chilling pronouncements. She knew he was locked away, but the porcelain faces, the whispers of his twisted philosophy, lingered in her mind like a persistent nightmare. Dr. Vance, however, continued her engagement with Sterling. She believed that to truly understand the depths of human depravity, one had to confront it, to dissect the mind of a monster like Julian Sterling. Their sessions, initially focused on his past crimes, slowly evolved into complex philosophical debates about art, beauty, life, and death. Eris found himself increasingly drawn into these discussions, fascinated by Sterling's unique brand of nihilism, the chilling logic that underpinned his madness. "He's still trying to control Eris," Dr. Vance remarked after one particularly intense session with Sterling. "He's trying to make us understand his worldview, to see the truth he claims to have unearthed. He's still collecting, but now he's collecting minds." And that was the insidious truth. Julian Sterling, the doll-face killer, even from behind bars, was still exercising his influence. He wasn't just a prisoner. He was a silent propagandist, his chilling philosophy of art and human impermanence slowly permeating the public consciousness through his trial, through true crime documentaries, and through the academic discussions surrounding his case. He had become a perverse icon, a testament to the disturbing allure of extreme intellectualism untethered by morality. Years passed. The doll-face killer faded from the daily headlines, replaced by new horrors. But then, a new series of disappearances began, mirroring Sterling's methods with uncanny precision. Not in Los Angeles, but in diverse cities across the globe: Paris, Rome, Kyoto. The victims were young, artistic, and vanished without a trace. And at each scene, a meticulously crafted, unique porcelain doll, its face eerily serene, left behind as a chilling calling card. The world grappled with a terrifying realization. Julian Sterling, the collector of souls, had inspired a new generation of aesthetes of absence, disciples who shared his twisted artistic vision. They were not directly connected to him, but were captivated by his philosophy, driven by the same perverse desire to transform and immortalize human beauty. Izzy, now living in quiet retirement, received a call from a frantic Eris. "It's happening again, Izzy. But it's not him. It's others. They're imitating him. They're finishing his symphony." The task force, reformed and now global in scope, faced an unprecedented challenge. How do you hunt an ideology? How do you apprehend a pervasive, unseen influence? Julian Sterling, the ultimate puppet master, had orchestrated a global art exhibition of terror, his masterpiece playing out across the world, his victims transformed into chilling, porcelain echoes of their former selves. The collector of souls had transcended his cage, his twisted legacy blooming in the darkest corners of humanity. The unfinished symphony had begun. The chilling proliferation of aesthetes of absence, inspired by Julian Sterling's macabre philosophy, plunged the world into a new era of terror. What began as an isolated series of murders in Los Angeles had spiraled into a global phenomenon, a grotesque art movement with human lives as its medium. The media, struggling to comprehend the scope of this new threat, coined terms like the porcelain plague and Sterling's legacy, underscoring the chilling reality that the doll-face killer's influence had transcended his prison walls, manifesting in the most terrifying ways imaginable. Detective Sarah Jenkins, though long retired, found herself inextricably drawn back into the nightmare. The images of the new dolls, replicated with disturbing fidelity and unique artistic flair in cities across the globe, sent shivers down her spine. The serene, unblinking eyes of the porcelain faces seemed to mock humanity's efforts to contain the darkness. Dr. Eleanor Vance and Eris Thorne, now leading a joint international task force, faced an unprecedented challenge. They weren't just hunting criminals. They were hunting an ideology, a pervasive strain of nihilistic aesthetics that had taken root in susceptible minds worldwide. The aesthetes of absence were not a centralized organization. They were a diffuse, decentralized network of individuals, each driven by their own interpretation of Sterling's chilling philosophy. He created a language, not just a method, Dr. Vance explained during a high-stakes international briefing, her face etched with exhaustion, a vocabulary of deconstruction, of transforming the fleeting into the eternal. And he taught them how to speak it through his art. The new dolls were indeed more elaborate, more varied, and sometimes even more disturbing than Sterling's originals. An aesthete in Rome, a former sculptor, crafted dolls from ancient marble, their faces reflecting the serene, timeless beauty of classical statuary, yet retaining the unsettling blankness of Sterling's creations. Another in Tokyo, a renowned fashion designer, created dolls from human hair and delicate silks, weaving a disturbing narrative of ephemeral beauty. Each piece was a unique interpretation, yet all echoed the same chilling premise: the transformation of human life into a permanent, idealized form. Eris and Dr. Vance meticulously analyzed Sterling's extensive writings, his philosophical musings unearthed during the initial investigation, and his ongoing correspondence from prison. They searched for the manifesto, the hidden messages that had catalyzed this global phenomenon. They discovered that Sterling, over the years, had perfected a system of coded messages within his innocuous prison letters, reaching out to vulnerable individuals who had contacted him through the prison's pen pal program, or simply admirers of his art, who found him through true crime forums. He had subtly nurtured their latent artistic and philosophical inclinations, twisting their perceptions until they saw the world through his porcelain-tinted lens. He didn't need to directly instruct them in murder, Eris explained to Sarah during a desperate phone call. He just needed to give them the philosophy, the permission to see humanity as raw material. The rest, they figured out themselves, eager to contribute to his unending exhibition. The aesthetes, when apprehended, were a diverse group. Some were clearly deeply disturbed, almost cult-like in their devotion to Sterling. Others were outwardly normal individuals, drawn in by his intellectual charisma, by the allure of a higher purpose in a mundane world. They spoke of preserving beauty, of transcending the ephemeral. Their words a chilling echo of Sterling's own pronouncements. They saw themselves as visionaries, artists contributing to a profound, global statement. The global manhunt was unprecedented, a race against time to identify and neutralize these scattered cells before more lives were tragically transformed. Sarah, with her deep understanding of the initial cases and Sterling's psychological profile, provided invaluable insights, guiding the task force through the labyrinthine logic of the killer and his followers. She pored over the art pieces, searching for subtle clues, for the human element beneath the porcelain mask. The climax of the global pursuit came with the discovery of the Grand Gallery, a vast, abandoned cathedral in the heart of Paris, secretly converted into a horrifying exhibition space. This was the ultimate realization of Sterling's vision, a collective masterpiece undertaken by his most devoted followers. The cathedral was filled with hundreds of dolls, life-sized and miniature, crafted from every conceivable material, each one a chillingly realistic representation of a disappeared person from around the world. The eerie silence of the space, broken only by the whispers of the wind through the broken stained glass windows, was more terrifying than any scream. The raid on the Parisian cathedral was a massive, multinational operation. Sarah, against all odds, insisted on being present. As the tactical team stormed the ancient building, they found the aesthetes meticulously arranging their grotesque exhibits, polishing the porcelain faces, adjusting the miniature garments. They offered no resistance, their faces serene, almost beatific, as if they were performing a sacred ritual. And then, in the central nave, bathed in the ethereal light filtering through the high windows, they found it. A colossal doll, towering over 20 feet tall, crafted from a mosaic of human bones, meticulously bleached and polished. Its face, serene and beautiful, was made of pure, translucent alabaster, and carved into its chest, in Sterling's unmistakable elegant script, was a final, chilling inscription. Beauty truly captured is eternal. My exhibition knows no end. For the heart, once understood, continues to beat in the souls of those who truly see. The discovery of the bone doll, the ultimate testament to his perverse vision, marked a grim victory. The main cells of the aesthetes of absence were dismantled. But as Sarah stood before the colossal sculpture, a profound sense of exhaustion and grim realization washed over her. Julian Sterling had not just been a serial killer. He had been a catalyst, a dark philosopher who had unleashed a new form of terror upon the world. He had shown that true evil could be insidious, intellectual, and self-replicating. Dr. Vance and Eris Thorne, though successful in their mission, carried the indelible marks of their encounter with the Obsidian Mind. They had peered into the abyss, and the abyss had undeniably peered back. They had contained the physical manifestation of Sterling's legacy, but the philosophical seeds he had sown would continue to germinate in the minds of those susceptible to his twisted logic. The world slowly began to grapple with the aftermath of the porcelain plague. The doll-faced killer, though confined, had left an enduring and horrifying legacy. His unending exhibition had shown that some forms of evil cannot be caged by bars, but rather live on in the ideas they inspire, the fear they instill, and the chilling porcelain whispers that forever haunt the collective consciousness. The unfinished symphony of Julian Sterling, the doll-faced killer, had played its final, global crescendo, leaving an indelible mark on humanity, a testament to the chilling power of a truly dark and brilliant mind. The dolls, with their serene faces, continued to smile, forever reminding the world that beauty, in the hands of a monster, could be a terrifying, eternal curse.